Hey guys, thanks for
What's
Hey,
having
up,
me.
Daryl.
brother? How you doing, man?
Yeah, I couldn't hear Nicholas halfway through. I'm like, okay, what's happening?
It
But
must have been
yeah,
good though, right?
yeah.
I mean, it looked
Aaron,
like you were in it.
oh,
Yeah, it was
he
good.
was in it. He was giving me a whole spiel. It was great.
Yeah, I
Definitely got
can't
to
wait
watch
to
it.
I can't wait to superimpose what I want him to say right over
Yeah,
top
yeah,
of
yeah.
that talk. It's
New
going to be
meme,
good.
new meme format.
Yeah.
All right, Daryl. Daryl, you are the head of special projects at Layer Zero Labs, where you spearhead initiatives to advance cross-chain interoperability and omni-chain infrastructure. It's really great to have you on. I feel like we first met, or maybe you came to my attention as a very active crypto Twitter participant last cycle and
Yep.
investor. So maybe to start, I'm very curious, what was the spark that led you to dive in with Layer Zero?
All right. So I guess it's a space like basically I've always been investing for a while. So like we invested in a bunch of stuff like across the whole last cycle. And going into like late last year, I was really looking into like getting back into building. Like I've always been like interested in building products, done that over at CoinGecko and Nansen, and basically seeing how the whole like ecosystem is growing, where everyone is like launching a different chain. This was like this time last year was like before like Abstract and everything wasn't on live yet, or like Monad and Mega Eve, like they were all going to be live, and I was just like, okay, if all these chains go live, like what's gonna happen next in a sense? I was like looking at Layer Zero as well, and it's like taking over in terms of like market share and like market dominance against like all the other interrupt providers. They were working with like the best projects like Etina and launching and basically looking at them and like seeing their approach in like building products, where it's like it's always about building at the lowest level but with the highest level of utility. And like the founders were like super fun as well. Like Brian is we've also invested in Layer Zero back then, so it's like really easy for me to catch up. I always like jumped on the call with Brian, called and talked to him about like where like the future is going for the ecosystem. And I was like, okay, this is like a team that I want to be working with full time, and it's like took the chance to like just like move like my entire life over to like Vancouver, and that was interesting. But
So you're right next to me. We're
yeah, oh
basically
nice,
we're in the same
oh yeah,
province, baby.
oh
Love
yeah,
to see it.
So
yeah.
tell
We
us, yeah,
have
what does special projects really mean? What are you working on these days?
so special projects is like a really really broad title, and it's just like I work. The way I like to describe it is that I will basically build out products internally, but I also work with like partners from like external like applications or like product like chains, for example, to really find out like ways we can like build different integrations. So that this could look, for example, like what we done recently was with Hyperliquid. We built the entire Hyperliquid bridge, and then what this means was basically like any OFT can easily bridge into like the hypercore and hyper EVM environments. And sorry, just taking a step back. So basically, one of the largest like products that Layer has is basically an OFT, and what we call OFT is basically like an omni-chain fungible token standard. So what this means is that you have like a token that can be extended from like let's say Ethereum to like any other chain any chain that you want that's connected to Layer 0. So like Solana, Base, Arbitrum, Hyperliquid. So it's just like a token. We have this token that's like native created by the applications themselves. And let's say for example, Etina, they've used this to like scale really well to like all different chain environments. So, like one integration that went live recently was like Telegram. So thanks to us connecting like Ethereum to Telegram, the Etina OFTs could easily like, move over. And then now like Etina can be used like USDE can be like accessed by like all the Telegram users directly through the wallet.
I'm curious
Amazing.
Yeah.
the ongoing discussion around sort of chain abstraction. We talk a lot
Mhm.
about app chains,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
I'm curious how has the thesis at Layer Zero evolved, or what you're focusing on evolved as that sort of
I
shift has
think like
become popular?
so I think we've always like fundamentally never been like biased towards like the chains. Like I think we've created like this lowest level stack that basically there was this opinion that basically today's chains are not like the final form of like chains. Like you can argue, for example, like some chains would adopt like ZK and be much faster. And so like we never had like a bias towards like which chains we're gonna succeed. We're just gonna support all of them and like connect all of them. And it's just like being able to have like, for example, being able to send like a message from like Ethereum to like Arbitrum of Ethereum to like that's always gonna be like our like core bread and butter, I guess. So,
You mentioned Telegram. I'm curious, what do you
yeah.
think about the Telegram? What do you think about Ton Network? How do you think Telegram's adoption might take off? especially now
I
that
think
they're enabled in the US, right? It was just recently integrated into
yeah.
the US client for Telegram.
Yeah. So I'm actually like really excited about Telegram. I think it's like I think everyone has always seen like Telegram's like the most widely used application to so for most people in crypto as well. It's like you use it every day, you log in, you sign on to Telegram, and then when they launch the wallet and everyone's like super excited to like finally be able to access like crypto. And I think like once you have like for example like stablecoins on that, you just like maximally accelerate the whole adoption of crypto. And like what we did at Layer Zero was like really just like we worked with them like super closely and like rewrote the entire code base so that any developer can like come in and like build on Telegram much more easily as well. Etina was just like the first application that got onto Telegram through Layer Zero. Like we had also had like the USDT Zero team launch like Tether Gold also used on Telegram. So we are pretty much like I think Telegram's like one of the chains that we had like a huge bet on. We spent like almost a year just like working on them like as like a core dev level, and that's and now we're starting to see like applications take off.
Yeah, it's super interesting because I mean, it was probably about a year ago, right? Kind of went deep into Telegram and in Singapore, talking to a bunch of devs, and the sort of overwhelming response was, "Oh my God, is it very hard to go build on? They have a lot of infra to go build out, yada yada." And then also with this sort of shift to focusing on the Tom blockchain as sort of like the primary blockchain that one must interact with in that app, kind of I think I was sort of questioning whether that was done too early or what impact that would have. It definitely felt like it removed Telegram as like the obvious place for us to maybe go build things or extend things to. Is what you're saying, has Layer Zero sort of solved that issue in some way?
Yeah, so we basically rewrote the entire code base. We made it a lot easier for like anyone to like build apps on top of it. And then we personally built it ourselves. We personally like built out like vaults for 18 ourselves on the Telegram blockchain. And then there's another like EVM, there's another like chain, I guess that you could call it that. So TAC is like a Telegram EVM environment, like blockchain that they also launched, and then they're also connected to like Layer Zero. So we've been working with them as well to like bring over like some assets via the via OFTs into TAC as well. And TAC you can think of it as like you have like Telegram here one side, you have TAC, and then the EVM layer. So if you don't want to build on Telegram, which is like harder for most people, they can also build on the EVM on the TAC level, and this EVM level will like interact with Telegram level. Like it's kind of interesting how like all these different chains have like built like I guess like workarounds or like integrations to make like EVM side much more easier to come into.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of the sort of technical changes over time, and I think one thing we've seen in the space is that what matters most is the communities that follow projects through their various technical changes. I'm curious, what keeps you up at night about Layer Zero's design? What are you looking forward to, or think that Layer Zero needs to address most urgently to stay relevant from a technical perspective?
So I think like we basically one of the things. Okay, sorry, going back into one of the things that our founders have always been like really strict about is like it's like the protocol is like immutable and it will not be changed. And so like in version 1 and version 2, they both live like right now, they're both live. And the idea was that if let's say for example like we ever launch like a new version, we're not gonna like rug all users who are using version 1 and version 2. It'll be like a separate like standalone like protocol version. So similar to like Uniswap V1, V2, V3, V4, like they all live like immutably as well. So it's like I would say I wouldn't lose sleep on that. But like what keeps me up is like basically thinking about like how we can extend the use cases of Layer Zero further. So be able to like, work with like teams is like being able to work with teams to discover like okay cross-chain messaging like applications that we can figure out. Like say for example like I'm really interested in like I'm really interested in bringing like the rest of the ecosystems more tied together. So let's say for example like Mega ETH is the ecosystem I'm really bullish on. Like and right now and basically it's like an L2 on Ethereum, but being able to tap into liquidity from like every single other chain. So like Base, Optimism, Arbitrum, and being able to bring that over to like Mega ETH is something I want to work on as well. But the thing is like at the end of the day, in 2 or 3 years, like my vision for the future is that no one cares about like what chain you're on, but like cares about like being able to access them all like seamlessly.
I'm curious about that. In this
Yeah.
world of chain abstraction that you're talking about, where the users don't really know where their assets are living necessarily, or they at least don't have to worry about it, is Layer Zero well positioned for that, or does it give applications the opportunity to replace Layer Zero with alternatives?
So I think we're very well positioned. We have like 80% market share today, compared to like every single like other cross-chain messaging protocol out there, and our usage just like grows over time as well as we build out like more applications. So like one of the biggest ones that one of the biggest like bets we've made this year is like USDT 0. So working with the USDT team to like launch an omni-chain version of USDT. So they, for example, they never have to like care about like integrating or learning about new chains anymore. They can just rely on the layer 0 network. So this creates like a very much like symbiotic relationship where like the stablecoins, any stablecoin, like for example, we power like 60% of most, like 60% of major stablecoins are all like layer 0 OFTs. So they all they have to do is like focus on like distribution and focus on distribution, focus on getting applications to use their assets, and then we help them deal with all the backend stuff. So they don't actually have to care about like running infrastructure, running the nodes, learning about different blockchains, how the different use, and building like custom smart contracts. We can help them do all of that as well. So USDT, for
Amazing.
example,
Sorry,
USDT
go
0, for example, was like they launched in like early this year. They're going to be connected to like all the major chains. Like it's already on like Chain and Inc. And you can transfer like, for example, like there was a transfer for like $80 million from Ethereum to like Inc for like $3. And you basically have like no slippage, no size restrictions, and like it's like free transfers. That's the kind of like application we unlock on layer 0. I think that's like one of the biggest like differentiators from like us and all other competitors. Because we have like the distribution, we have like all the asset issuers using layer 0. And our tech is it's like the most like friendly to use.
All right, but maybe the last question before we let you go, I'd like to get your investor hat back on, which I'm assuming you still wear quite regularly.
Yes.
You look out maybe over the next year, 18 months. I'm very curious, what are you looking at? What are you excited about?
Okay. I think that everyone's like really excited about these days about like stable coins and like DATs, like being able to buy like equities and being able those equities buying like tokens. I do not care about any of that. Like honestly speaking, I think like I've made my bets were like pretty simple. It's like my bets were like Hyperliquid and like Ethena. I think those two and also like layer 0 in a sense so it's gonna take up most of my full-time capacity. But I think for me personally, I've always been like interested in like investments that unlocked a whole new like use case for me or like made my life easier in some way. And I could see that like expanding to like the wider market. So like Hyperliquid, for example, is like enabling everyone to access perks enably and having like a superior UX to every other like competitor out there. And then HIP3, for example, is like where anyone can deploy their own perk market and never have to like think about like running your own infrastructure, never have to like you're abstracting away all the pain that everyone had. So like for example, like Phantom Phantom, for example, integrated Hyperliquid, they've made like $1 million in like 2 weeks less. And it could have been the opposite way where they spend like $10 million building their own pub decks. So I think like those like investments would always be like the most interesting to me. Like how do I find like what's the most pain point for anyone, and like how do I abstract that away? How do I make someone's lives easier? I think it's the same vein you see with like AI. Like everyone's like really excited about AI unlocking like new use cases or like saving me like so much time. Like my brother uses like AI to like do his meal plans and like fitness plans, and that's like super interesting to see.
And is he jacked?
Yeah, he's jacked. He built like what 20 pounds of muscle like in the past year.
Yo.
It's insane. It's insane.
Okay, but you just shared a couple of projects that were obviously bets you made a while ago. I guess are those the bets you're making today, or are there sort of new things?
So like for example, like both like I can give you like the quick bullish thesis on like both like Ethena and Hyperliquid, right? Like Ethena literally just had like a DAT recently. They raised like $250 million to be buying like Ethena on the open market, and that's like one like if you compare that to like for example, you compare that to like Circle. Like Circle's trading at like what 200 PS, and that's a very like interesting dynamic because like you can argue that traditional investors don't really care about like fundamental value. They care about like the narrative. They want to buy like any exposure they can get into like the stablecoin narrative, and like you can argue that Ethena has like a structurally fundamental like better like business case than like Circle. Like for example, most of revenues from like Circle goes to like Coinbase, and then like I already talked about the Hyperliquid business case. But yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm sure we could wind you up and give us the bull thesis on a bunch of those sort of things, but we don't have time for that today. But appreciate you hopping on, Daryl. Hope you're enjoying the West Coast summer. It is the glory time to be here.
Yeah,
Take it all in because it is fleeting, my friend. So fleeting, as I'm sure you're aware. Yeah. Thanks, Daryl. Have a great one, man.
Thanks, Daryl.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.